Have you ever walked into a room and instantly absorbed everyone's mood? You probably grew up believing this was a rare gift, an empathic superpower. But what if psychology sees it differently? What if this extreme empathy is actually a trauma response disguised as compassion? In trauma psychology, beyond fight, flight, or freeze, there is a fourth response: fawning, the compulsive need to please. Your brain learned early on that the only way to stay safe was to keep everyone happy. You're not just being kind, you're in a state of hypervigilance. This creates an inflated compassion. Your brain hijacked its reward system, releasing dopamine only when you save someone. You became addicted to being needed to feel valuable. But what happens when you finally say no? Why do people panic? Because when you stop sacrificing yourself, you break the ecosystem of those who profited from your exhaustion. You become dangerous. But what exactly happens inside your mind when this mask finally falls off? When that mask finally slips, you experience what Carl Jung called a collision with the unconscious. For years, you repressed your anger to maintain the nice person persona. But suddenly, someone asks for a tiny favor, and you explode inside. Does this mean you're becoming a bad person? Not at all. You are finally accessing your shadow, the rejected parts of your psyche. This anger isn't cruelty, it's your mind screaming, "We are done being used." This is the death of your persona. Psychologically, your brain hits a wall of cognitive dissonance. It can no longer tolerate the massive gap between your internal exhaustion and your external people-pleasing smiles. You stop projecting your own goodness onto toxic people. You stop falling in love with their potential and start seeing their actual behavior. No more excuses like, "They yelled at me, but they had a hard childhood." But when you finally set these boundaries, what happens to your body? The physical transformation is shocking. When you stop pouring your energy into a bottomless pit, an incredible energy inversion happens. The energy stops flowing outward and rushes back to you. This is the birth of sacred selfishness. But let's look at the actual neurobiology behind this. For years, absorbing everyone else's emotional baggage kept your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, constantly activated. Your body was perpetually flooded with cortisol, leading to severe compassion fatigue. This energetic toxicity is exactly why you've experienced unexplained chronic pain, anxiety, and deep physical exhaustion. But the moment you start setting boundaries, you activate your vagus nerve. You switch on the parasympathetic nervous system, also known as the rest and digest state. Your body literally begins to heal itself. By the way, if this physiological shift makes sense to you and you're ready to take your energy back, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so we can keep decoding your mind together. Now, what about the guilt? Before, saying no gave you a stomachache of pure, crushing guilt. But suddenly, that guilt just evaporates. Why? Because psychologically, you realize that guilt wasn't your moral conscience speaking. It was a conditioned response, a psychological button installed by manipulative people to keep you compliant. You stop over-explaining yourself. A simple no becomes a complete sentence. But as your body heals and your mind clears, a massive storm is brewing in your social circle. Are you prepared for the great purge of your relationships? When you stop being the ultimate people-pleaser, brace yourself for the great relationship purge. In psychology, we look at this through systems theory. Imagine a family or friend group as a machine with interlocking gears. For years, you were the gear that absorbed all the friction. When you suddenly change your shape by setting boundaries, the other gears, the toxic, demanding people, will grind and try to force you back into your old, compliant shape. When they realize they can't control you anymore, those relationships shatter. It's a painful period of grief and isolation, but it is absolutely necessary. You are losing friends who only ever loved your utility, not your humanity. This is where you develop what we call authentic magnetism. You stop pretending to feel certain emotions just to keep others comfortable. You stop acting as the emotional parent for every adult around you. Instead, you turn those profound healing gifts inward, toward your own inner child. You finally understand that you cannot pour from an empty cup. You don't lose your sensitivity, you upgrade it into conscious sensitivity. You adopt a new psychological code. Feel everything, but absorb nothing. You give only from your overflow, never from scarcity. You help out of pure inspiration, never out of manufactured guilt. Healthy selfishness isn't about not caring for others. It is taking absolute psychological responsibility for your own happiness. The world doesn't need you drained. It needs you conscious.